Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the caster desk. I'm Munchables. I'm joined by Moxie here in the Copperbox Arena in London for MSI 2023. And we've got Yinsu on the stage, getting everybody hyped up. And I will say the crowd have been sick today. We've got a Brazilian contingent here. I don't know how far they've traveled, but it's awesome to hear.
Yeah, Loud fans showed up early. They were, even before game one, popping off, ready for the second series of the day, Loud versus G2. But, of course, they have to wait through the rest of this series before they get to see what they want.
Yeah, I mean, they were in here before we were, honestly. We
yeah,
turned up, they're already
up.
there cheering away. Yeah, game 2 coming up between PSG and DetonatioN FocusMe. And I feel like we've got some expectations to be filled here for DFM, right? This is a team that came in, like a lot of people saying that they were going to be aggressive, fast in the early game, trying to make things happen. We want to see more of that. We want to see, you know, blood for the blood god here from our Japanese squad.
Yeah, definitely was a little underwhelmed with their game 1 performance. I think their draft was very standard. It was very similar in terms of team comp executions. 2 tanks on the weak side. Obviously, Kasante going to get a little bit better at that matchup. 2 playmakers in the mid lane, hook champions and scaling 80 carries in the bot lane. And it felt not very DFM, where they usually have a couple little wrinkles in their draft or ways that they have to brute force plays and stuff like that. And I think it showed that if you try to do that against PSG, they will smother you out.
Yeah, I will say the Thresh from Harp, that felt old school Thresh. That felt, you know, when like Thresh first came into
nice
pro
hooks.
play and it was like, that champion wasn't locked in just to lantern your AD carry. That champion was locked in to find those hooks, Spider-Man plays, and you know, that felt like vintage coming out from Harp. So excited to see more of that if we do get it. PSG though, I mean, starting off strong. Starting off, I think, as quite a few people were expecting to see, but like, to do it that well in game number 1, no stage jitters, no nervousness. Like, I know we've got a bit of experience on this squad, but it's still like the first international tournaments for players like Aja, who has had an amazing game number 1 in that top lane. This is his first ever international tournament, and he's coming out in style.
Yeah, he's making Toll 2 look rough. There's been a lot of the comments about that Malphite play, but that's partially because Aja just played so well. As someone, first time, like you said, being able to kind of play his style. He is someone who wants to, for the most part, be left on an island, play semi-counter pick matchups, things that are strong to their opponent but still have good team fighting, and that's where he really shines. Is actually, he built a 20 CS lead, but his best play is oftentimes in those team fights, setting up for the rest of the team.
Yeah, and to be fair to Tor 2 as well, this is his rookie split in pro play, period. Not even just internationally, in pro play in general. So you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit there. Ari, first lock-in here for DFM, and I like that. Aria, extremely good, got that playmaker. Junjia, though, straight off the bat, he wants to carry for himself.
I respect it. Junjia slamming down the Viego pick for him there. We'll see if he can carry this game. He had a pretty good game 1, I'd say. We talked about the 2 early kills that he got at the Rift Herald fight and was able to take over a little bit. But yeah, the Ari for Arya was absolutely monstrous in that finals performance for him. He rode that champion extremely well, comboing with Steel, and they were able to run away with that game. And we see a Zeri still. Okay, she did receive some nerfs. I know some people, myself included, were hoping that she died and with those nerfs. They were not huge, so it's not too much of a surprise to see her. Probably going to be paired with Lulu. We'll see if that gets locked in here, because if people are unaware, Emilio and Yuumi are not allowed. They are disabled for this tournament. They are considered too new. And Munchables is dancing that Yuumi's not allowed.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. No Yuumi in the tournament. I'm over the moon on that one. I have no preconceptions about that. As we look towards PSG on what they want to look, it looks like it's going to be a mid lane pick here, which is a little surprising. Quite often you see in the first rotations the jungle and then your AD carry and support locked in. But with the Ari early pickup for Aria, feels like perhaps PSG feel pressured to get their mid lane locked in, and Newbow going to go for the Lissandra himself.
All right, Lissandra coming in, comboing together with the Viego. The fact that you bring a little bit more damage from the jungle this time means that you get the setup from the mid lane. No surprise there. Lissandra has been relatively popular in recent weeks of domestic play, starting to crop up more and more, and makes a very strong mid-jungle 2v2 if you're able to have enough damage to blow people up and start providing resets for this Viego.
And I think this is one of the interesting things about PSG when you looked at their finals, for example, domestically. Every single game was quite a different style of draft. This is not the kind of team that just lock one set of champions every single game and that's the way they win, and they just vary based on the bans. Like, this is a team that have multiple pages to their playbook, and it feels like they're drilled on the different ways of playing the game. They're drilled on the ways to team fight. So excited to see Junjia on that carry jungle. Certainly felt like he was like willing to go in the previous game, getting caught a couple of times, in fact.
Yeah, all of PSG actually looking pretty aggressive in that first game. So very strong showing. I will say I was surprised to see the Wukong grab by Seal. He did have a very good performance on it, but does open up the possibility of that Lulu getting banned out, and that is indeed what PSG did, getting rid of Zeri's favorite champion to combine with currently in the bot lane.
I'm a little sad to see the Thresh banned, because I was really hoping Harp would go for his Blitzcrank. Like, we've seen Blitzcrank as an answer to the Thresh. This is something Harp did in their finals. Like, I would have loved to see it here on the stage.
It's a pretty common setup. You know, they see the Thresh, you see Jinx or Aphelios select in. Thresh is a great combo, so you leave it up like, oh no, we forgot to ban the best pairing, and then you get the counter pick. We'll say with Zeri being slightly weaker, not too much of a surprise to not. I assume you would want to play that with Blitzcrank. You missed the hook and suddenly a very weak lane phase. Probably going to try and find an enchanter to pair the Zeri up with.
Yeah, certainly. The Ornn Hovered there, I will say, could be a big pick across the course of this tournament. A lot of people talking about that as a top laner. But the Gragas, more standard, something we've been seeing across the course of this year, likely to go up towards Azure in that top lane with our jungler mid already locked in. But now for DFM, they're going to round this competition out. Yeah,
we'll see what they want to go for. We talked about how Toltu, for the most part, is pretty much strictly on tank duty. 12 games of Gragas, 8 of Sion, 6 of Cassante, 4 Malphite. So you don't really have to worry about the counter pick coming in too much here, so it makes sense that they grab this one for Aji, as well as the double AP soul laners, but you have the 80 carry threat, a little bit of Junjia coming in from the side lane, or from the jungle, excuse me, to these laners. We'll see what they want to combo with. Of course, Cassante coming in for Toltu. Hopefully this time gets the better of the matchup. Obviously it was on the Malphite last time, but yeah, Cassante really took him to town.
It kind of reminds me of that, there was a Donkey video years and years ago where he was like,
oh, I know
this is my favorite champion in the game, gets killed by someone. He's like, this is the best champion in the game, gets killed by something else. This is the best. I feel like that's exactly what Toltu's doing. Died to the Cassante? Okay, I'm going to play Cassante myself. We get a Renata though, locked in for Harp. I feel like it's a little while since I've seen a Renata.
Yeah, Renata did drop off a little bit, but still played somewhat. Obviously a very strong team fighting champion. You still have the hook as well. Technically with the Q coming in, a lot of the buffs for the rest of the team, a very strong team fight ultimate, and kind of feels like what DFM is going to go for a little bit here. Woody flexing maybe?
Yes!
Oh, he actually locked it in. All right, we get the first Blitzcrank of the tournament. I expect we'll be seeing a lot more of this champion. Just so powerful, it feels like these days.
You know, I thought it was going to be Harp. I was wrong on that one, but we still do get that Blitzcrank. I'm here for it. Woody bringing it out. There's a snake in his boots today, that is for sure.
Oh no.
But we'll see what PSG are going to bring. But I'm curious, especially with the Renata in the mix here, like, talk me through the DFM composition. Like, how do you go about playing the game? Because it feels like they don't have that much engage outside of the Wukong.
No, it definitely feels a little bit more like a counter-engage focused team comp. I guess in a sense you can say that it will be relatively short range with Junjia and Yubao needing to go flying in to kind of the back line. And with the Renata ult, you can kind of shoot that over the top. It's a very telegraphed engage in a lot of ways from Yubao. If you see this claw coming in, you can then be ready to press your R, and as soon as she actually takes it, you finish that off. And then it kind of blocks the follow-up from coming through. Maybe Lissandra's stranded in your team and you kind of focus her down. It also did require a little bit more engage for the team because they were a little low on engage. Renata, she's very difficult if you're just supposed to shoot that out blindly at the start of a fight. Very easy to sidestep that, but if you're following up off of Wukong or something like that, it does make a little bit of sense for them there.
Certainly does. But we're headed towards the second game now. DFM, it is a best of 3. They get a second opportunity here to show us what they're made of here in London at MSI 2023. And there is a lower bracket if it all goes wrong, but they're hoping to push us to 3 here, and I'm hoping they do too. It's the first series of the day. It's the first series of the tournament. Let's hope for 3 games.
Yeah, we'll show off this new tournament strength, show us a best of 3. Of course, like you said, they'll still be live no matter what at the end of this game, but I definitely want to see a little bit more out of DFM. Felt a little disappointed in game 1. We'll see if they can bounce back here in game 2.
We certainly will. PSG, though, looking good for the PCS's Woody. Moving towards a stack of players on the enemy team. He's on that Blitzcrank, which you do have to be scared of. We can see, though, there's no one alongside him. Don't forget, though, everyone at home, you can get your Prime Gaming emotes, connect your League of Legends account, and you can grab yourself that Got 'em emote. So make sure you're getting involved online.
Any primers in chat?
I don't know if you can even subscribe to this channel. A question for another day. PSG, though, feeling good. Starting good. Like everything, I think, just rocking and rolling for them. DFM, though, we want to see proactivity. We want to see them making things happen. And Harp was absolutely on it with the Thresh in game number 1. I want to see those handshakes out from his Renata. I want to see that same skill shot accuracy.
Yeah, it was definitely the best performing member of DFM. I think you can make that case. All of the good plays that the team had kind of came off the back of his hooks. He almost got them that mid-game team fight before the side of PSG turned it around. So definitely have my eye on him, especially on such a huge playmaking champion like the Renata. Here we see already some early invade by Junjia. Pretty much blind. I'm not sure if they had any vision down. It doesn't look like it. So going in just knowing that Steel's going to be starting up on the top side there.
Yeah, I don't know if he somehow discerned this based on Woody kind of poking his nose in earlier, but I feel like, I don't know how you would manage to discern that from that lack of information. But yeah, Junjia just going to get himself a free invade.
I just went back, scrubbed through it very quickly. Looked pretty much blind. He was standing on his point up on his own Raptor camp before wrapping around down to the bot side and just kind of getting a read. I mean, this is one of the things that I also particularly love about series in general. Best of 3 a little bit shorter, but especially in best of 5s, is being able to pick up on habits that you're starting to see out of enemies. So if you know that this guy tends to just default into basic clears, full clears, things like that, then you can get really aggressive in here. Junjia doesn't just take the Raptor camp, he takes the entire bot side of Steel there.
Oh, so close from Toll too, and that would have been redemption right there, but Junjia already down in the bottom lane right here. Woody looking for the hook, but DetonatioN over the wall. Woody's just hit level 2 as well as Harp step in there, but it's Wako to go low despite it being a 2v3.
Yeah, not bad. Obviously, PSG stepping forward to kind of force onto that play. Does get some sums out. Harp losing his flash, DetonatioN losing his ghost. But I think overall, you got to be pretty happy for DFM to get out of what was a very risky setup there. Junjia not able to land the stun that he initially sent out there. And this is buying Toll 2 kind of on an island to go ahead and push his top lane advantage as much as he wants. Steel with nothing to do in the bot side of the map, actually now going for a counter invade. His bot lane does have priority, so we'll see here Harp starting to move up in the river to collapse with Steel and try and force down onto this blue buff and see how dicey they're willing to get with this.
Yeah, Wako currently resetting as he moves back towards the play. Woody does have a ward, so full information onto Steel, but if they can buy just a little bit of time for Wako to rejoin the play, they should be able to deny the invade from Steel. It doesn't feel like Steel is that confident to really force the issue here. But as I say that, he does move back in.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have much else to do on the map. It's going to be hard to move up to the top side. He could do it, given the control that Toll 2 has, maybe try and cut through mid lane through the Ahri lane. Instead, he's just going to fall back onto the Scuttlecrab here, providing pressure for DetonatioN to keep kind of shoving up this bot lane. You can already see a pretty big CS lead starting to develop for DetonatioN. So even though it was very annoying to lose that many camps to Junjia, the fact that he spent that much time doing that did allow a lot of the pushing lanes to auto-win. Here you see Steel doing that kind of cross-map up to the other Scuttlecrab here, and we'll see if he actually wants to keep trying to invade onto this Viego.
So far, we are 4 minutes into the game. Junjia has not taken a single one of his buffs, and yet he's almost 10 CS up on Steel. He's going to jump over the wall, though, and will smite away this Krug. Junjia getting the vast majority of the little mini Krugs there, though. Gets himself some rocks. Steel. Speaking of, like, you're a tourist in the UK, get yourself some rock. It's
no idea what that is.
It's like a stick of sugar, essentially. You get it from the sea.
I gotta tell you, Joe, you're not selling me too hard on the
It's really tasty, okay?
Okay.
They like write little words on the inside of it. It's cool.
Wow, cute.
Yeah. Look, I don't work for TripAdvisor. This is not my forte.
Yeah. You have been my tour guide kind of since I've arrived here. You've taken me out to dinner quite a few times. But all right, DFM taking a PSG a little bit on here. I'm very happy to see Toll having a slightly better performance here, getting some good trades up in the top side. DetonatioN as well, up in lane phase. The fact that gold lead is even after that initial invade means that they've done a very good job in their lanes, staying even with PSG this time around.
Moving towards this mid lane here. Arya rooted up. This could be huge. It's
nice
a great
stun.
charm, and it's enough to get Arya out. No summoners available. Yubao still has that flash, so it could be an opportunity later. DetonatioN goes aggressive, but Woody disengaging now.
Nice little hook on DetonatioN there, but Renata, pretty strong laner at the end of the day with the range, harass, the handshakes, the shields, all that stuff. So able to stay up in lane, and there you see the fact that Arya lost his flash is going to be pretty big. Does enable more opportunities. Obviously still a very mobile champion at 6, but maybe there's enough burst damage to finish her off through a full combo between Junjia and Yubao now.
Yep, and Junjia starting the Drake off, and this is, you know, in the previous game we were at 12 minutes and we saw the first Drake. This is more what we expected from PSG. They love a Drake.
I assume that's the entirety of their analysis of game 1, is their coach was just like, you should have got Dragon earlier!
Faster.
Definitely, even this time, despite the pressure that they kind of had in the bot lane, the fact that they got that gank off in the mid side, they instantly transfer that down to Dragon, and they begin the PSG tried and true game plan of Drake stacking.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like, you can't really go wrong. Assuming you have the priority and you have the ability to do it, It's exactly what they've done domestically. And honestly, it's one of the questions that I've got for PSG moving into this tournament, moving into international players. Domestically, they've been fantastic at stacking those neutrals and being able to just do it through priority, figuring out when your opponent is going to reset. Woody channeling is in a light year here as he finds Heart with a hook, but the handshake turning it around, and Yudpon still full HP. This could be a disaster as Yudpon trying to chase for more, still has the flash available. Ghost channeled away as he's getting the damage onto Woody. Can they finish it? Yes, they can. Yudpon with first blood.
Woody hooks Harp underneath the turret, but that is not the threat there, and Yudpon takes that moment where there's no longer any threat available to dash in and find first blood in a long chase down.
You gotta believe somebody poisoned the water hole or something there. Woody goes down. It's Yudpon finding the advantage early on. And it's important as well, because comparatively to game number 1, like Wako had this Aphelios and just scaled for free. Got so many plays, like had a free early game. He was chilling. This time around, it's Yudpon getting ahead.
Yeah, nice to see. They also had some good trades earlier on in that game for DFM. And here you see, while you do land Harp, he was at full health, and you can't 100-0 him. Now your cooldowns are down, and you haven't actually lowered the big threat on the team. So now Yudpon just pops his Ghost, and you have this entire lane on Zeri to just pew-pew them down, chase them up. Woody there just getting popped, and there's the shield. Seal did get nerfed a little bit by the Zeri, but not the biggest deal at the end of the day. And nice kill.
I feel like we see like the strength and weakness of Blitzcrank in that play, right? Like the initial play, fantastic, gets the hook, gets the knock-up. The entire rest of the replay, all he does is walk around because Blitzcrank's cooldowns are absurdly long.
I mean, everyone falls prone to it. I went, whoa, the whole crowd went, whoa, but we'll have to see if he can make a better use of the Blitzcrank here at the Rift Herald fight.
Junjo will walk away. Zubao moving over as well. You can see Adja moving over. And apologize to Adja if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I believe it is pronounced Adja, but, you know, my weak English tongue cannot maintain it. Woody knocked up here. He's going to be caught out, and with no flash available, you got to believe it's another pick for DFM, and this is what we wanted to see. This is the pace we wanted.
Yeah, DFM being much more aggressive this time around, finding angles. We'll see if Toll's in trouble here, though he should be able to just hop over the wall to steal, maybe, if he's got it up.
Good looking for a fight, honestly. Steel's just over the wall. The all-out comes out from Toll 2. Junja not quite on the right side of the wall, forced to ult himself as Harp has moved on over as well. The knockback onto Adja. Oh, the hostile takeover doesn't quite connect, but Toltu does not care about that one. Steel finds yet another kill, and this is a snowball that has begun to roll.
Man, DFM is just picking PSG apart. They don't want to back off that play. Very cute idea by Toltu. I think he wanted to actually get him into the pit, ended up hitting him all the way across the Herald pit wall, as opposed to hitting him next to the Wukong, which is I think what he was going for with that flash ultimate. But at the end of the day, there were still so many resources available that they could get that chase down. Harp's ult was kind of angled, assuming he would flash closer to the Viego, ended up flashing further over the wall, and you can see that's absolutely fine because there was still plenty of chase down available for the rest of DFM. Get those 2 kills. For PSG, the one upside is that you have managed to keep the Rift Herald up alive, so you can keep your perfect neutral objective control for this series.
Yeah, despite all of that, PSG are actually still the ones that get onto the Herald, and off the back of those resets from both Toltu and Harp, will be Junja finishing this objective off. Next Drake spawning in 70 seconds as well, so you can expect PSG to book it down towards that bottom side.
Yeah, Woody in this replay, you can see just kind of caught between 2 paths to go to. No longer having flash up means he's a very easy kill for them to find there. Get that one, and then here's this kind of sequence I was talking about where he told Two's going to try and flash to the far side of Ajay, I believe it was, or maybe it was Junjia, and try and ult him into the pit here once he sees him visible, but just that little back step to the left sets up the angle incorrectly, so it hits him to the far side of the wall there. But because Harp is still in the range, Steel easily can get over the wall. That still is a good way to start this fight and allow the rest of DFM to collapse and kind of focus these members down.
Yeah, and little mechanical mistakes like that are tough, because that feels like the difference between a fight where you get a singular pick and can't quite finish Herald, and taking out the enemy jungler and giving you that wide open opportunity.
And to be fair, maybe he actually did do that sidestep intentionally to hit it closer to Harp. I thought he was trying to hit it to Steel, but maybe he thinks it's better to set that up closer to the Renata. So could have been the case there. But either way, DFM do lose the Rift Herald there, and I think this is one of the things that PSG does very well, even in losing game states, finding ways to get these neutral objectives. And it's a bit of a crutch in the sense that, like, we're not going to always win every single skirmish, every single fight, but we can continue getting resources in our favor by getting these small advantages from the gold, from plates, hopefully, or even just denying it and stopping the snowball that DFM could be getting if they had that Herald.
Yeah. As speaking of DFM, they're going to look to stop the Dragon stacking from PSG. This could be their first strike of the tournament. If they can just find that objective. But Junja, very much aware of the situation, has that Herald to try and push a lane with if he wants, but Woody's here charging into the play. Wants to find a hook for himself. It's going to be a full-on 4v4 as Yubao enters the fray as well. Junja, is he trying to go for a steal as the all-in comes out? That's a nice little Moonlight Vigil as well. Woody in the middle of everything. Steel low on HP. Dragon gets low, but Steel grabs it. No, in fact, it was Unipon to finish the job. Gets a kill for himself as well. Looking for more as he dives over the wall. Wacko flashed on.
Oh.
And now Adja in a 1v1 with Azeri. I don't think he can win that one. It's a double for Unipon.
On this far side of the play, though, Steel and Arya got dropped. I believe it was Yubao picking one of those up. We'll see now the teleport out.
The chicken's trying to punish.
Able to survive there. Ends up being a very scrappy fight. Like you said, the Unipon of all people securing the dragon, but very clean mechanics. Nice backstep there on the Aji body slam.
Yeah.
Very clean stuff out of DFM, continuing to kind of get this Goldie going, stop the dragon stacking of PSG, but a very scrappy fight.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about Unipon being the franchise player. Like, him on DFM is the second longest standing player on any team in the entire world. Only Faker beats him by a month and a day. Take another look.
Yeah, here's this split fight. You saw a lot of resources used onto Arya early on, force him out to the left side of the fight. Steel as well, able to basically try and get out here, tries to get healed, no way, has to run through Yubao. Ends up going down, then Yubao finds Arya yet again, actually flashes forward, finished him off, while Unipon was making that play on the right side of the map, able to kind of make it an even fight overall, I believe it was. But this TP here, very cheeky, very, very sneaky to able to get out of there.
Manages to escape, but now PSG answer by trying to make a play on the bottom side for plates. One plate taken already by Wacko just then. The Herald, handshook away. Can they actually deny this one? Steel's moving over, has the smite available. They've got to hit the eye with an auto. It's not going to happen. So the plates will go across to PSG, but it's only 2.
Definitely not the same level of snowballing that Wacko was able to receive last game around, but still very nice for them to be able to try and keep pace with this Zeri. Yes, he does have his Mythic completed first, but Zeri obviously with the 3 kills, up a little bit of gold, about 500 currently in her back pocket. So there you see Mythic completed just now back in base. And DFM feeling a lot better this game. I think in terms of scaling, in terms of team fighting, both times the drafts have been very similar. We didn't touch on it too much in the previous game, but a lot of the ways that these teams are going to team fight is very similar, where you have these kind of weak side, more tank-oriented top laners, scrappy junglers, scrappy mid laners, a very hard scaling AD carry in both games, and then this time around, playmaking support. So it's going to come a lot down to execution, vision control, setup, these kinds of things, and that is something that PSG has done extremely well in both domestically and in game 1 here, which does enable Woody to hopefully start landing some more impactful hooks.
And that's the big thing, right? When you play through vision control and you've got a Blitzcrank, that's so hard to face check into, man. Like, hey, Toltu basically the only one. I guess Steel as well can use his clone to try and block some of those hooks, but it's scary to try and fight for vision against a Blitzcrank.
Yeah, if you see it coming, it's not too hard to clone backwards and make that thing eat the skill shot, but if you're doing it blind, that's a much harder reaction test right there. Unfortunately for Woody not having the best game, how many Toy Story puns do you have prepared if Woody keeps dying? Do you have any good ones? Like, it seems like you spent a lot of research on the Toy Story puns.
I'm going to be honest, they weren't actually necessarily prepped. It's just Toy Story puns come naturally.
The mind of Munchables, it's incredible.
It's an incredible thing, watching Toy Story. I did it a lot as a kid. I was one of those kids that, like, puts on a movie and then just puts it on again and then just puts it on again.
You're the
Toy Story was on that list for me.
Watcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Disgusting.
Oh, right.
Should always be watching new things.
I wasn't that fussed about optimization as a kid, but there you have it. You know, different strokes for different folks. It's just over 1,000 gold lead right now for DFM over PSG. And this is what we wanted to see, right? We came in saying we wanted a little bit more from DFM. And it feels like game number 2, the jitters are gone. It feels like we're seeing that team that we saw in the LJL.
Yeah, forcing fights, getting more aggressive here, and already kind of swapping up the lane assignments despite the fact that all outer turrets are still available. Putting Unipon into the mid lane already. Arya in the side lane with that ultimate, very safe there. And they kind of want to sit on this Lissandra to limit her playmaking. Also gives them easier access to the mid lane. Yep. And as long as you don't get hooked by Woody while you're Arya in the side lane, it's actually a pretty low chance that PSG can make a play onto you.
Woody could, oh no, the Cyclone doesn't actually land, and Junja throws his stun out to try and buy space. The Blast Cone! It's a Mega Cone as well. And Woody gets out with his life. That could have been so unlucky. Off of the Scryer's Bloom happening to be procced as he was in the Dragon's Pit.
Oh boy, that's actually kind of painful there. They are able to force them back, and we'll get pressure around this and maybe drop this turret, but Dragon is spawning in 20 seconds. It's a very long cooldown by Harp. People were noting there are a couple little UI issues that we're getting sorted out, so it's about a quarter of the way off cooldown, so quite a while. We'll not have that for Dragon if PSG are able to get enough tempo to kind of force that one down. You saw the idea there, combo it with the Wukong ult. That's kind of what we were talking about in the draft, but just a little too slow on the trigger finger there, and the blast cone saving their lives. And this is what I was talking about. PSG, knowing that those two critical teamfight ultimates are down, are probably going to be able to grab this one uncontested by DFM.
Yeah, not the most impactful Soul. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about that across the course of this year, the Chemtech Soul being one of the least favorites of them, but can still be very, very valuable, especially when you're later on in those team fights, especially when you're running with a tank Gragas up in the top side.
Yeah, definitely the case. I was a big Zombie Soul fan. No, I was not.
Surely not.
Absolutely not. But I will say for PSG, it does feel really good to, like we said, find these kind of footholds in a game where you are losing. The fact that DFM blew all those resources. While it didn't work out, I do like the aggressiveness. I wouldn't want DFM's takeaway from that play to be like, oh, we should have held those cooldowns for the neutral objective fight. It's like, no, you should have just executed slightly better, find that kill, because I do want them to keep that level of aggression up. Yep. Instead, they just flip up to the top side and grab that Rift Herald for free after PSG grabbed the Dragon.
And talking about the differences between game 1 and 2 so far, I want to give a quick shout out to Talon 2, because it's night and day, game number 1 versus game number 2 here. It felt like he was very nervous in game number 1. Remember, this is his rookie split in professional play at the top level, certainly at least. And so making it to MSI is already a big achievement. Now showing up with a CS lead in game number 2, 2 assists. Is K'Sante looking pretty good? I'm feeling good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure when I was watching the LGL finals, they were done remotely, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So playing in front of a big crowd like this on this crazy-ass Mortal Kombat stage or whatever this is, like, I can see this getting to, like you said, a rookie player in having a rough game 1 and bouncing back in game 2. We're really glad to see him with that 30 CS lead. He was getting torn apart, I will say, in some of the online comments I saw. Had a pretty unimpactful Malphite game, but looking much better this time around.
That's what happens when you lock in the Shamrock Malphite skin. It's out of his hands, what can I say? We're in England, not Ireland. Dactor and Ashida are going to kill me for that one.
Did you?
Yeah, it's been a pretty nice game, though, for DFM. I will say, fairly slow pace still, and not necessarily like leveraging their advantage, but then again, when your advantage is on a Zeri, yes, you got the 2 items, but still a while away from being that like terrifying late game Zeri that we all dread.
Yeah, I mean, Zeri is a champion where you don't need to keep brute forcing these plays. The fact, like we said, that the scaling is relatively even for DFM. You can kind of using this pressure to try and find those level of pickoffs. If you get them, great. If not, you can just go into these neutral objective standoffs pretty much even footing in terms of a comp perspective, and they are definitely ahead with where the gold is located. Yes, it's a 2,000 gold lead overall, but it does feel very good for Udapon in particular to be up 1,000 gold and further along.
Ajay trying to get cheeky with it here. This is something he's kind of known for domestically, having great flanks for the team fights. TP being channeled as Herald is dropped in the mid lane.
Oh boy.
Feels like we're posturing for a fight here, Mark.
Yes, sir. You can see Aja coming in the backside, wants to get an ult and knock people into the turret.
This could be massive if he can find Udapon still. Flashes away Udapon, knocked up, knocked back. The rest of the team can't follow up though, because Toll too, making him pay the toll on the backside of the play. Woody next to go down as Arya gets the resets, and suddenly PSG are torn asunder.
PSG tried to make that play happen. We all saw it coming, but they did not coordinate it quite well enough, and DFM were able to absorb that pressure, turn that fight around, find 3 kills, mid lane turret with the Rift Herald down, and at perfect timing, the Baron spawns at the very end of that fight. DFM are going to try and force this one down. We'll see if PSG can stop it.
They don't want to let it go for free. Aja in the area. Yubao moving towards the bottom side, actually. I don't think there's a contest here at all. This is Baron, taken by DFM, showing up in game 2.
DFM already showing the benefits of the new format for MSI, having a rough game 1. Maybe it was jitters, maybe it was just the level of play that they had, but this time in game 2, answering back strong. Yubao going in a little bit ahead of the play. Aja is not quite there in time to land the ultimate. You want that root at the same time that Aja would be knocking everyone into the team. He does knock Udapon in, but at this point, they've already blown too many other of the resources down. You already can see that Wako was just blown up by Toll 2, diving into the backside of that fight, and they just get torn apart. The coordination not quite there for PSG.
Yeah, Woody goes down right at the end there. Where's Buzz when you need him, eh?
Oh my God.
And you can see happy faces across the staff for DFM, and rightly so, as they begin their Red Bull power play. And we'll see what they can get done with this Baron, because PSG in game number 1, they basically took the entire map apart with that Baron buff. We've got to see if DFM can have a similar showing, but they've got the gold lead to work with, right? What, 5,000 up currently in their favor. See if they can keep on snowballing that.
5,000 gold lead in their favor. Not great wave clear on the side of PSG. You do have basically the Gragas barrels and Lysandra Q, but it is kind of hard to actually stop a push here coming in. So they're going to melt this first turret down here. Already moving over to the mid lane. DFM has pretty good vision control set up for this map movement over to the side. Aja, though, is waiting on the top side of the map.
Woody could look for a hook here. And, you know, I feel like Banshees on Ahri has had a lot of flame over the year. There's been a lot of conversation about Ahri builds.
The no damage builds.
Yeah, when you're against Blitzcrank, I like the Banshees here. It means you can be just that little bit more aggressive.
And not a ton of tools on the side of PSG to poke that one off. I feel like that's where sometimes people tunnel on what it can prevent without realizing what's up.
Cyclone comes in, Arya over the wall as well. Aja just caught in the middle of everyone. Tries to escape and almost does, but taken down in the end. And DFM continue to push forwards. Baron in pocket, 5 members strong in the mid lane. It's Talon 2, might have gone too deep for this one. They've run out of minions as well. He's knocked up, he's under the tower, but the all out pulls him out to safety and flips the play on its head. DFM are looking good.
Hell of a game 2 by Talon 2 here. Already 2-0-4. Nice CS lead for himself. Baiting the rest of PSG in, finding that kill, not able to grab the inhibitor turret on the tail end of it, but falling back to Dragon, grabbing their second of the game, and a much larger gold lead, up to 8,000, a nice 3,500 gold Baron buff power play.
And again, like you say, denying Soul Point, another Drake for DFM, another neutral denied from PSG. And it feels like we have to go, we'll do the replay and then I'll go into that one.
All right, well here you see it's just easy as the turret's beginning to drop. You can go in and finish off the turret for Utapon and make that dive happen. Aja just no flash, no way out of that situation, was still on cooldown from the previous fight, able to finish him off. And then here you can see how tanky Cole 2 is, just the fact that there's so many ultimates being dropped on top of him, and he uses the K'Sante ultimate as an escape to get out from underneath the turret while also delivering a target for DFM to focus down there.
Yeah, I feel like Woody maybe needed to acknowledge the fact that all out's available. Like, you can't stand behind that guy right there. Talon 2 getting out with his life. And like we said before, fantastic game number 2 from Talon 2. And we have to go back to a conversation that we brought up earlier on in game number 1, right at the very start. We said PSG, they come in with a clear-cut plan, but everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I feel like DFM, they're finally throwing that punch.
Yeah, you can see DFM having a much better game too. And for PSG, I kind of referenced it a little bit earlier, but like the North American fan in me, having watched TSMs and Team Liquids of old, where there's this very heavy focus on scaling and control, and because you're the best team in your region, you kind of default win your lanes, and people don't play you quite normally, and you're able to kind of scale. And DFM, I think, respected PSG a little bit too much in game 1, and in game 2, forcing a lot more often.
TV coming out from DFM here as they want to try and find the fight, and they might have just found it as well. Wako taken down by Arya, who finds the backline and finds those charms, finds the resets, finds everything for DFM.
DFM punish and collapse so quickly. This is one of the things that they are incredible at, is the angles of playmaking. They can come from all over the map. The teleport coming in there from Arya, finding Wako on the backside of that fight, able to finish him off, does give them the path to grab this mid lane inhibitor turret. We'll see how far they want to go here.
Oh, a knockback as well. This could be the snowball. A pick onto Yubao as the tower is taken down. Yubao with the double Zonyas keeps himself alive for a little bit longer. Not long enough as he's taken down. It won't be the end of the game, but it will be a mid lane inhib.
Mid lane inhib taken for free, basically a minute before Baron is back alive, so all the summoners and spells, or excuse me, ultimates and spells used there will be back available for DFM when the neutral objective respawns. Just such a nice pickoff there, punishing PSG, stepping forward for that vision control.
Utapon feeling fantastic in these fights as well. When everything is set up on your terms, you can see he just free fires away during all of this chaos.
Yeah, I thought for sure that this was not going to develop into a fight, but the overchase here by Junjia, wanting to get on top of Steel, not knowing that Harp was sitting on the backside of that brush, and then the teleport in from Arya was instantaneous, ready to immediately follow up on that team and find all those extra kills. Just the coordination by DFM there, and the creativity. It doesn't always come from draft, as we see our first pause of the tournament, baby. Let's go.
I mean, it's day number 1 of MSI. Without a pause, it would something would be amiss, right? I feel like this is almost it's tradition at this point.
Of course it is. You know how people do those 90, 50, 10 predictions?
Yeah.
I was trolling Reddit earlier, and I saw that one of the 90% predictions was a pause. Whoever that is, congratulations, you hit your 90.
Yeah, bold prediction, to say the very least. We'll update you as soon as we know what's going on and hopefully get back into the game. But you do have to wonder on things like momentum for DFM. I mean, like, let's be honest, they're very, very far ahead at this point. I feel like even with conversations of momentum, they're feeling pretty strong, but a pause can sometimes alter that a little bit.
Yeah, you start stewing, you start getting in your own head, you realize you're on a stage again from this like kind of flow state that you were in. It definitely can pull you out a little bit. Like you said, fortunately far enough ahead this game that's probably not going to throw too big of a wrench in their plans. And it's more about, you know, we started getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in game 1, talking about game 2. Here, it's already feeling like what's going to happen in game 3. Because I did want to gas up DFM a little bit, not just about draft creativity, but in-game creativity and the angles that they come from, and the kinds of plays that they're willing to do. And it's exactly why I go back to this play again in game 1, where you had Steel sneak into that bot lane brush, and he didn't pull the trigger on that play. But that's exactly the kind of stuff that this team does so well, is like camp brushes from weird angles where, like, okay, if someone was in there, surely they would have jumped out by now, and they just have this level of patience that some teams are not quite prepared for. And I think you could see it a little bit there where PSG was like, okay, if anyone was going to collapse and try and save Steel, surely they would have shown up by now. And then out of nowhere, the rest of DFM emerges. And I think it's something that can surprise a lot of teams, especially a team like PSG who is so used to slow, controlled play.
It's almost like guerrilla warfare style of League of Legends, you know, where you can never quite know where they're going to come from. You can never quite know what's going to happen. DFM, they bring that element of chaos into the game. And we'll see if they can continue to bring that to the stage here today. Game faces on. I see some people clicking away. I think we might be ready to jump back in shortly.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can get back into the game in a second here. But yeah, I think for DFM, looking very good, showing a lot more of their personality in game 2. And it's, like we said, a big benefit to the new MSI format, the ability to kind of weather that game 1 storm, any potential problems you might be seeing, and then immediately bounce back in game 2. More centered, more focused, and for some teams, especially some of these teams that don't get to play on huge stages, huge finals, and these kinds of things, you know, it might be the first time you're in a venue like this where the pressure can kind of get to you.
Yeah, and they will get, whichever team loses today, they will get at least 1 second opportunity. I do actually want to take this moment to mention a little storyline that could show up a little bit later in the tournament, and that's that at 2022 Worlds, DFM played against Loud in their first ever international best of 5. They managed to win that series, and there's a lot of Brazilian fans in today that are looking towards Loud. If we see DFM versus Loud in either side of the bracket, that could start to become a bit of an international grudge match.
I gotta say, DFM, because you heard the analysts talking about it, have attended so many international tournaments. They have been to every single international tournament except 2020 Worlds, I believe it was. They've only missed 1. And so they've started to develop these rivalries with a bunch of teams. Cloud9 is an example of another team that ended up getting beaten in some matches against DFM, or played some close series as well. And you know, obviously they're waiting off in the main bracket stage for Cloud9. But if by some strong level of performance, I didn't want to call it a miracle, but by some miracle, DFM advances all the way through and grabs one of the 3 slots available, you know, they could suddenly start having rematches versus Cloud9.
It could get real juicy. It could get real exciting. Apparently, there is an issue with the in-game camera locking for PSG's Woody, so hopefully we can get that resolved and get ourselves back into the game and get things rolling.
I think all of us, I can't speak for everyone, but at least I have experienced that problem where your camera just locks and then you click the button, it doesn't unlock. And you're
like mashing Y and all you're doing is just spamming your chat. You're like, wait a second. We are back into the game though. As soon as we say the reason for the pause, apparently it magically fixed itself. And we're back onto Summoner's Rift once again. DFM looking down the barrel of their first win of MSI. If they can tie a bow on this one. They've got the mid inhib down, there's Baron up on the map. It feels like they've got the tools to finish this one, but PSG are never a team that you can quite count out.
No, absolutely not. With this Baron up available, we'll see how aggressive DFM wants to get. It is a situation where if they're not careful, start a risky Baron, Collapse comes in, you get blown up. Could be a dicey situation, but they're so far ahead, playing so confident right now.
Oh, Tol2 behind enemy lines here. Junja having to ult out of the play. Tol2 wanting to find some knockups, but knocked back himself. The Everfrost, the cast from Aja, and a great disengage from PSG.
Oh, a little bit gun-shy, I think, by Tol2 there. It was a very nice play by Steel to kind of force the entirety of PSG into that mid lane. You saw Jinji have to ult over the wall, and I thought for sure this is where Tol2 is just going to ult someone right back to the rest of the team. But instead kind of slow played that fight, gave PSG the window to get out. Now that's a lot of ultimates down for the side of DFM.
We got a pincer play coming through. DFM ready. So the Berserk actually keeps him walking away. Aja locked up in the team, flashes out to safety. Tol2 locked up as Wako is firing away, flashes into the play, and the follow-ups there from PSG. Aja now denying Tol2, knocks him up and takes him out as Junja getting resets in the backside of the play. And PSG, against all odds, find their mark.
PSG absorbed the engage by DFM, kited out, and Wako sees his moment to flash in with a monstrous Aphelios ultimate there, finishing off multiple members of DFM and buying PSG their foothold back into this game. Gonna grab a Baron on the tail end of that fight.
Look, PSG say you can take one Mountain Drake, you can take a Chemtech Drake, but you cannot take our Baron.
Oh man, you can see here Harp just doesn't quite angle the ultimate far enough back to catch people with the slow from the Everfrost. Like you said, only Aji there getting knocked, Berserk, he's still going to run backwards. And then here, they're just kind of getting pelted by Wako, who finally sees his opportunity to flash ult, Gale Force in, Q spam them. Insane play by Wako there, seeing his angle and forcing the rest of DFM back, getting them low, allowing Jinji to start picking up resets as well. Super clean fight there for PSG after we saw that flood kind of engage out of DFM.
Yeah, faces lighting up there for PSG. And I think a lot of people coming into the tournament saying that Gigabin was going to be the biggest Giga Chad of play-ins. Well, Wako putting his hat in the ring there saying, look, I've got some Chad in me too.
I mean, this is why we were hyping up Wako as this guy with gold in his pocket is such a fearsome team fighter, and why PSG trusts him so much is because he knows the exact moment for when he can finally go in on the back foot all game long, and as soon as he sees his angle, he makes that team fight all about him.
Yeah, so DFM still grabbing a tower up in the top side here. You can see gold lead still pretty significantly in favor of DFM.
Still DFM with the goal lead, like you said. They do have pretty strong scaling in their back pocket still. It doesn't mean that the game is over because they lost that one team fight, but it is kind of that momentum stopper that we were talking about. You hit this pause temporarily, you come back in, your first two fights don't go well. The first one kind of forcing into mid lane, you didn't find the angle, then you lose this one, you lose Baron, gold lead starts going over to PSG, gold lead slipping away. Sometimes, despite still being stronger in the game, you can feel like you're behind. I will say it's a very good sign that DFM has not really let off the pressure. The fact that they did lose that fight but still have PSG corralled on their side of the map speaks to the fact that DFM doesn't seem too daunted by the fact that that fight did not go well.
DFM still, like you say, putting the best foot forward. Junja, what I've seen actually from Junja this game, he's consistently charging forwards to try and throw a skill shot or a Q at Arya to deny that Banshee so that Woody has targets. He's constantly moving forwards to try and make sure those spell shields aren't in play.
Absolutely love that kind of in-game problem solving. I was talking about it, how the Banshee's Veil doesn't really have someone who can easily proc it off of, and it makes it very good against the Blitzcrank, where sometimes you build it and there's someone who very easily can land some poke against it, like a Corki, and then you're like, why did I build this in the first place? No. Here, like you said, Junjia realizing that, hey, someone needs to pop this off so Arya doesn't feel safe just flying into our team and forcing these kinds of engages with the Everfrost or Charm.
And I feel like we're getting to a point where with 3 Drakes in favor of PSG, 3 minutes until that next one. The Baron going to fall off here. It is a significant Red Bull power play for them, but it's very much a comeback power play, right? That's just bringing them into the game again. But they're still 4K down. And we're looking towards Utapon, as DFM often have in the past, to be the big carry in these fights. He's on 4 items on the Zeri. Feels like this is his moment to make a mark. Yeah,
the longest standing member of DFM, second longest standing player on an organization of any team in the world here. Absolutely incredible stuff to have the gold in his pocket, a full item up still on Wako, who had that great team fight. But I gotta say, if you watched PSG's postseason run, you saw a lot of games kind of look like this, where they're a little bit behind. There's late game dragon stacking going on. There's some kind of burger flip of a dragon. Suddenly they have Dragon Soul and they're cleaning up a team fight. I've watched so many of these that, like, if I'm DFM, I know that, like, we are not out of the woods yet after that initial Baron loss went through.
We talked about this team as almost being like the diet version of EDG 2021, right? With Junja from that squad, with the coach Corki from that squad. And you know that that was a team that loved a team fight. That was a team that no matter what the game state, they could still make the magic happen. So, like you say, not out of the woods just yet. But, you know, DFM feeling like they got Robin Hood on their side in the former Udapon. So maybe the woods is exactly where they want to be. It doesn't make any sense.
I was about to say,
like,
nice. the thing is, like, I'm an uncultured American, so like when you say something like that, I'm like, is there a reference I'm missing? Like, did Out of the Woods come from the Robin Hood story?
He's from Sherwood Forest. He like lived in the woods.
Well, yeah, so there you go. See, I am uncultured.
The King of Thieves, or Prince of Thieves. Tol2 could be in trouble here, but Woody just slightly wide on the hook, so won't find his mark. Junja, I love the way that Junja is constantly like, playing in that fog, trying to get as much information as possible.
Yeah, realistically, you know, PSG is not going to brute force a fight here on DFM, but they want to be annoying. They want to make it so that DFM isn't just on autopilot as they shove these lanes over and over again. So Jinjia working into the jungle, trying to find these angles, threatening people like Udapon and Arya if they're not paying enough attention. They're like, hey, maybe you can find some way to get a pick off there. But for the most part, it does feel like, you know, DFM is very comfortable into the push lanes, get wards out, and then wait for the next big neutral objective team fight where PSG is going to have to walk into you. I will say, DFM in terms of wards placed is one of the lowest wards placing teams in the tournament. Now there is a bit of an interesting correlation in League of Legends where the more you win, actually the less you need wards because you can actually defend your wards more.
Yeah.
As we see Woody pop his ult there.
Now going to have to dip over the wall. Could be in trouble, might have to use that ultimate himself, but the handshake doesn't quite connect. Junja's okay. We're setting up for a fight once again. Everfrost comes on out, just fighting for those wards. And a single bit of Infernum, his half. It's a third of his health.
Yeah, definitely have to be careful. Wako's starting to hurt.
He's going to be told to, using the all-out, trying to pull Junja into the play, but he gets back towards his team. Ult for ult.
Yeah, but there's also the commitment of Steel's ultimate there as well. Now there's missing two big ultimates for DFM here, only costing Jinjia, who, of course, if he can find a kill, can just grab that one right back up.
All out being on cooldown could be an issue as Tol2 keeps himself safe for the time being. Dragon started and we might just have a 50-50 on our hands. Steel,
yeah, we're gonna flip it.
He's gonna need to live up to his name here. The Everfrost has come on through, but it's a fight instead as Tol2 is on the backside, but Wako just shredding through his health bar instead. It's a good charm from Arya, but it's not good enough. So we do find the kill onto Tol2, and now we reset back onto Drake once more. Steel in the pit here. Junja turns gold, and Steel has to try and make the magic happen, but the smite's there for Junja. It's Soul as Wako charging into the backside. He's got a million shurikens and a dream of a victory as Arya falls. Looking for more onto Steel and Harp. They flee for their lives as another goes to Wako. And PSG, you can just never count them out.
We said we saw it coming. PSG there find the monstrous Soul Point fight, able to absorb the initial engage by DFM there, and then Wako on the back end of that fight, just obliterating Tol2 and then charging into the front side of it with so many chakrams stacked up.
And I feel like we've been talking about this slow, steady gameplay from PSG in general. I feel like that fight was a slow, steady fight. They read the situation, they understood what DFM needed to do, and they played around it. That is some serious, cognizant mind play? I don't even know the word. They're just so smart.
Yeah, they made sure they had all their wards kind of flanked out. Arya was clearing a bunch. Udapon kind of goes on the side, and Ozzy's just doing zoning duty. While Udapon's not outputting any DPS there because of that zoning, you had Tol2 in the middle of the enemy team getting shredded by Wako, who you can see has stacked up so many chakrams. And that's why Jinji, I think, is being so aggressive. He wants this fight to keep going before he loses these potential chakrams, baiting them in. Oh, man. And then the smite secure there, Steel forced out.
Yeah.
Udapon trapped in the pit.
On the top side of that play, I didn't see it during the live play, but Woody actually finds a hook onto the invisible Steel to force his flash out. So Steel just has no way to get back into them. I mean, Wako just doing Wako things to finish the job off as well. Beautiful stuff. And you can see it's tense in the PSG camp, and rightly so, because it's game number one, or series number one, of the tournament, and they are somehow finding themselves in gold touching distance once more.
Yeah, gold touching distance, but momentum completely in their favor. The fact that they are up now 2 Dragons with the Soul Point in their back pocket. Baron as well. Finally, for the first time in forever, it feels like, on DFM's side of the map, getting vision control down, finally hitting these turrets. There are 4 turrets that they are behind DFM, so once they start grabbing these, they will slingshot ahead in gold very quickly.
You see the damage dealt by AWS there. Wako miles ahead of the competition. Udapon the only one even close to what he's bringing to the table. We're talking about the late game Zeri. You can never forget the late game of Felios either. But now using these Baroned up cannons to find damage onto the tower. They've still got a full minute of Baron to work with.
Full minute of Baron. I think the game plan here for a team like PSG, break this bot lane inhibitor turret and the inhib if you can. Start getting the pressure down the bot side of the map. have that one open for the entire rest of the game, because I don't think PSG is the type of team to want to win a team fight right here and instantly end the game. They're very happy with how the last 10 minutes of this game has gone. There's no need to start rushing it. You've won the last couple of team fights here. Get as much of a gold lead in your favor as you can. You have the soul. You can get ready for Elder as well as you just keep taking down these inner turrets.
And we've been talking about how this is a rebuilt version of PSG, and that's true comparatively to last year. But I want to take a moment to talk about Yubao, because he's actually having a really good game for himself on this Lissandra. He's been solid throughout this entire series so far. And he's actually been to Worlds with PSG before, back when he was called Uniboy. He then had a year in the LPL. This guy is plenty experienced when it comes to international play, not just on the actual international stage, but also going to other regions. And it does feel like today here on the stage, that consistency is really showing up.
Yeah, he's so good for this team. He played a lot of different styles. He had some insane Tristana games in the kind of postseason run that he had, as well as these more kind of support-oriented ones, things like this Lissandra pick, where your job is about kind of buying space, locking people down for Wako to kind of run through these team fights. And I think that's something that the rest of the team has done extremely well, play around him as their primary carry. But Aji, despite being behind for a lot of this game, did a better job marking targets and trying to find people to isolate from the rest of the team so that DFM doesn't get these big kind of engages and they can chip them down.
We're keeping our eyes on Woody as well, because in any game that there's a Blitzcrank, you do just have to keep one weather eye on those hooks, because it really can just change everything. Like, DFM have worked so hard over the last 40 minutes to build themselves a lead, and it's been slipping away from them. But all of this work, all of this effort can be taken away with a single hook. Junja's invisible, no! Doesn't quite cancel the recall onto Aria, and Tol2 walks away. So close to the pick that could turn the game.
Yeah, did have the Banshee's Veil, would have had to poke that off and then land a bit of damage to stop that recall. But if you were able to do that, find that pick, charge down mid lane maybe. Instead, PSG, you can already see 2, 3 pink wards, in this dragon area, getting ready, knowing that this is where the game will be won or lost. DFM moving in now, trying to secure some vision down.
I feel like this comes back to the conversation of, we said PSG, really, really good on the vision control, really good on objective setup and control. Like, Elder's coming up in a minute's time. We can have no shenanigans. You cannot afford to 50-50 Elder to decide this series. So we need to see that objective control. Like, we've seen it domestically. Let's see it internationally for PSG.
Done good so far this tournament. DFM trying their hand at this vision control themselves, working as a unit here. Feels like PSG know they have plenty of time still, 40 seconds before the Baron spawns. Also, multiple ways that they can work in there. With Wako down the bot side, maybe they're going to cede mid lane control and try and work in through the bot lane river. They do have the minion wave relatively far pushed up here, so you can maybe see them work in through this side if they want to. Instead, they're going to go through the jungle, get into the river. And once they're in the river, I think they feel a lot better, not needing to worry about exactly all the angles that DFM keeps on flying over the walls from.
So this game could come down to one final team fight. Maybe it started onto Steel as Junja goes quite aggressive. Still walks away with his life. A single control ward answered by 2 by DFM as Tol2 tries to find the engage himself, but the Everfrost denies it once more. Beautiful grouping up with his team as Aja still in the mid lane right now. Needs to get over to his squad if he wants to be a part of this 5v5. Tol2 being that bruiser on the front side. Tol2 goes in, looks for the fight actually here as he goes for the all-out onto Junja. It's not really worked out for them, but Yubao uses his own ultimate to deny that engage. So kind of a trade of ultimates here. Yubao threatening the all-in, but doesn't commit. Junja as well, consistently poking. This feels tense, Mark.
Yeah, very tense. Tol2's ultimate being down means he has to go back to base. Will have the ultimate, or excuse me, the teleport to rejoin once he tops his health back up, but that means another team fight in a row where he has not been able to find a critical member of the team. Fortunately, the rest of the ultimate's still available for the side of DFM.
Pressure is on here, and it feels like PSG are in the driver's seat. DFM are trying to answer as Tol2 just jumps into the middle of everyone. Wako's still untouched, and Tol2's almost down, but the Cyclone does manage to get onto the team. It's a GA out from Steel, but Wako's still alive, taken down on the backside. Aria trying to keep himself alive. The Cyclone causing chaos. Unicorn's still going as Aja tries to shut him down, but it feels like DFM slowly winning the battle of attrition. Junja wants the resets, but denied as Tol2 will fall. It's absolute carnage on the Rift, but it's DFM that are the kings of chaos. It's DFM that come out on top.
DFM win the fight 3-5 right now. Gonna miss the charm. Should find this kill into Aji in a second here. The question is, are they able to end? 30 seconds before Wako and Woody are back alive. Doesn't look like that's gonna be on the table. We'll see if they just grab this soul point and then reset for Baron. Crazy, crazy fight there as DFM all in onto Wako, knowing they had to finish him off and just barely landed the last auto attack by Udapon, I think it was, that found that kill.
Absolute insanity in the fight. The gold's still barely different between the teams. It will be an Elder Dragon taken by DFM. Let's go again and try and break down some of this chaos.
Yeah, you know that the threat is Wako, so they're willing to all in on top of him. You can see Tol2 charging in there, a nice follow-up by Steel, landing the knock-up, the WE in combo, and then Udapon has hopped the wall. Arya has used all his alt charges to charge forward into that fight, knowing he's going to get low, but that last attack by Udapon, finishing him off, making them commit more resources. He will drop as well, but not after they've gotten so much AoE damage out that the biggest carries are already down. And then this last charm that Arya's going to land is absolutely huge. I don't know if we'll have time to get through the rest of this team fight because we're already onto the Baron now for the side of PSG.
No time for team fighting. Elder is in play for DFM. This is bold from PSG to try and go for the Baron. Junja actually ults over the wall to take the objective. Arya is off on the side in the meantime in a 1v3. The Elder burn, and Woody's taken out of the picture. What a play from Arya.
Very heads-up play by Arya there, knowing the rest of the team can't get in time to contest the Baron. Instead, waits on the exit path to try and land a kill onto someone. Did miss the charm on Wako, but Woody was low enough that he had enough damage to finish him off, and now it's a 4v5 charge up the mid lane.
Who cares about Baron when you've got a man advantage in a minute and a half on Elder Dragon? This is everything DFM needed to keep themselves in the series. After a heartbreaker of a mid game, after a monumental early game, perhaps this is enough for them to take PSG out and push us to game number 3. Junja on the front line will be taken down. Big damage coming across the team as Wako wide on his ultimate, but the Gale Force is there. Steel will fall. It's 1-for-1 between the teams, and Wako wants a little bit more.
Wako wants a little bit more. They do find the kill onto Steel. They did end up dropping him there, so now it's a 4v3. Both junglers down. Woody back alive. This is getting very scary for DFM.
Man, Wako is a living turret. DFM can't even go close to the guy without getting shredded. Arya ults over the wall. Wako trying to clear the wave as fast as possible, but is Woody caught out again as Tol2 dives under the tower, answers with his own life, and again, 1-for-1.
This is absolute insanity. The fact that you saw Tol2 trying to charge into Wako, who is still at full health, setting the team up hopefully, but he ends up dropping. Support for top laner obviously favors PSG, and that's finally what gets DFM out of their base.
I feel like DFM are in a raid right now, and all of the other players of PSG are like the ads, and then Wako is the final boss, and he is taking them apart.
Definitely in the late game rage mode of the boss. Took too long to finish him off. Starts doing extra damage, it feels like. Wako is an absolute beast right now. Able to keep his team alive, finding the kills both onto Steel and Tol2 there. But does speak to the fact that this game is still very much alive. DFM have the team fighting tools to win this one. I really like the all-in commitment here to Jinjia. They're trying to end this game. They don't want to go later, and so if you're going to do that, you have to burn down the side of Jinjia there. Go ahead. But here, getting a little bit too low. This ultimate does go wide, but the Gale Force auto in forces the res there, but you see there's nothing you can do, so he just instant to the turret. It's Steel acknowledging no way to find a kill.
And I've got to say, London, are you not entertained? Make some noise for Wako and the performance he is putting on to keep PSG in this game. But DFM, they're not done just yet. They are never out of the game. The chaos that they bring and the chaos of these fights, that's their strength. That is where they draw their power. Baron about to time out here. Elder not up for another 3 minutes. The same for Baron. No neutrals to talk about. And the question is, can you find a pick with Blitzcrank? Can you find a pick with the Ahri? What is going to happen?
It's also crazy when you have both those late game neutral objectives spawning at the same time. Whoa!
That was dicey.
I wonder if that was one of those, the bigger blast cone. Yeah. Wasn't ready for the Chemtech blast cone that far forward. Able to be okay, though, for Tol2 there. So we see a big standoff ARAM in the mid lane. Both teams with hooks. If any of these skill shot lands, you could find the game over very quickly. But I was about to say, with both of the neutral objectives spawning at the same time, PSG is the team that actually has played a ton of very, very late game scenarios. I think this is a situation where for a lot of teams, your games usually end before this point. Your scrims never get to this point, so the amount of practice you've actually had for the situation is quite limited. And for a team like DFM who's so dominant that they usually win their games much earlier than this, PSG might have a small advantage in that experience pool because they are very used to seeing Elder Dragons.
Junja does get caught by the charm here. Arya Good bit of damage, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. The Honey Fruit comes on through. Steel can't quite find his target. The Cyclone. Let's get a bit of follow-up. Everfrost coming out. I believe that was actually from Woody. As he manages to disengage the play. And like you say, not many teams do see that. PSG certainly do. And that team we were talking about before, EDG 2021, that they took Junja from, that they took Corgi from. And I did just notice Wako actually using the EDG Aphelios skin from that year as well. It does feel like they're channeling that late game power that that team was so very well known for.
Gotta say though, Steel also taking one of those empowered blast cones, maybe going a little bit too far and had to flash out there. So almost all summoners are available in this game. Obviously, Yubao, the fact that he's on the Unsealed Spellbook, has Exhaust Ignite, so you can swap those around. But now that's the only major summoner down for Steel, which is one of their critical team fight champions. You saw the one that they won at Elder was because he was able to basically commit everything to getting on top of Wako, having less mobility to do so now. Very scary stuff.
And it's worth mentioning, before we get to this fight that's potentially up in a minute's time, Junja sparring already, Steel hooked. No, it's the clone.
The clone.
Whew. I thought that was the real one for just a split second there. We do have a Renata in this game. We're on a 6-item Aphelios. If that hostile takeover hits Wako, he can two-shot his team if he's got Infernum on. Like, this is dangerous territory. Keep your eyes on what Harp's bringing to the table. He's rooked by Yubao, though, to start this fight off, and already Yubao using his ultimate. Junja has to just abandon his mid laner. They're trying to trade for Tol 2, but in the meantime, Yubao's going to go down. DFM starts strong, but Tol 2 does go down, and now the follow-up from Wako as well. The Moonlight Vigil onto Harp, but they don't have the damage to finish the kills off. Charm goes wide. And PSG try and make a play for the mid lane.
Top for mid, both 80 carries alive right now. Tol2 buying space for his team, overextended a little bit, and Harp again not quite able to land a huge hostile takeover. Tagged some members of PSG on the back end, but not the Aphelios. The hook lands!
It's the real one this time, a huge hook from Woody. Steel, half HP, has the GA to work with. The cask not enough. The shield
Ignite
saves the play, and Steel somehow gets away with the skin of his teeth.
Yeah, but he doesn't have enough time to go back to base to heal, so he's trying to lifesteal a little bit off these jungle camps before, because the Elder Dragon has respawned.
Half health on the Elder already. They do this so fast with red and white weapons for Wako. Junja needs to find his smite. Steel could live up to his name here as Aja over the wall. Steel found alone. The clone goes down. The knockup is there. GA procced. This could be it for PSG as Steel found wanting and taken down. Arya next to try and save his jungler, but Wako flashes after him. The Calibrum not quite there to finish the job, but Udapon left alone. And suddenly nowhere to go. Udapon will go down, and PSG take their Elder as their reward.
PSG in the tensest of moments, finding ways to play these fights out. Steel not having time to heal after a monster hook by Woody forced him low. That was the impetus for that whole situation. And now with the Elder on, looks like they're going to try and end. Easy cleanse there by Wako.
Ult comes across the team, but it's not enough. Yubao charging forwards. And with Elder, you've got to believe that this is it, unless some kind of miracle can save DFM. As the PCS show up to MSI once again with great expectations and a great reality. PSG go 2-0 in their first game. They wipe DFM despite a tough early game, and they show us why they must be feared.
PSG in the opening match of MSI 2023 find a 2-0 victory over DFM. Doing it both ways. Game 1, absolute dominance the entire way through. Game 2, falling massively behind, losing a Baron buff, losing an inhibitor, but finding ways to claw back in the game, showing why they're such a feared team for many of the analysts in this tournament. A dark horse to get out of this portion of the stage, because they can do it all. Their team fighting is absolutely insane, and they're never completely out of the game.
Incredible stuff here from PSG to be able to come back in that situation. And once again, I know we've talked about it a lot today already, but the pressure of being on that stage, being in that like mid-late game scenario where you're almost 10,000 gold down and still be able to show up on the day, still be able to show what you are made of on the stage. And you can see PSG there on the stage. Take a bow, boys, because that was fantastic.
Multiple members stepping up at different points in time. Obviously, we talk a lot about Wako, given the champion that he plays and the way that the team plays around him, funneling a lot of resources in. The aggressive Gale forces forward whenever he sees the opportunity to do so. But Jinjia as well, having a great game. Woody struggling a lot on the Blitzcrank, but finding the critical hooks when they mattered. Everyone stepping up at different points in time.
Yeah. And my heart goes out to DFM a little bit as well, right? Because at the end of the day, like, they've come in to show up for the LJL, and after such a good early game, Talon having so much of a better game as well, unfortunately not quite able to make it happen, but at the end of the day, we're in a double elim. They ain't out just yet.
Yep, they got their stage 1, game 1 jitters out of the way, hopefully, and I think you saw in game 2 that there's someone you can't quite count out in the losers bracket, whoever they end up going up against. We'll have to see who that is, but they are a team that still has a lot more to show, I think.
Yeah, they certainly are. I certainly hope so. And I'm excited to see more from them in the lower bracket. But PSG, I think a lot of people, like we said earlier, big expectations coming into today, saying they're a dark horse. And I was a little bit nervous at the start of game number 2, to be honest, when they started to fall behind there. I wasn't sure if maybe it was all going to fall apart, but showing they've got it in the late game, but definitely things to work on.
Yeah, I think that's the case where, PSG getting tested a little bit more in the early game than maybe sometimes happened domestically, but I think a lot of it was just really impressive stuff out of DFM, the map movements, the tricky angles that they come from. DetonatioN, I think, had a great series overall, really going toe-to-toe, especially in that second game. A lot of things that they can continue to work on, but PSG moving right ahead, waiting on for the winner of the next series, I believe it is, which should be Loud versus G2. I think one that has a lot of Brazilian fans in the audience, as well as the home region team. G2 coming up next.
Yeah, I mean, Europe versus Brazil, it's always going to be a good one anyway, but the fact that we're here in London, so G2 kind of the home crowd advantage, but there is a big Brazilian contingent. I'm seeing a lot of World Cup T-shirts, and you can hear them behind me. They are ready for that second series, so definitely a lot to keep watching for, and I feel like that's going to be a chaotic series as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one where both teams like being very aggressive, very creative picks all over the place. And, with this new tournament format, it is kind of a bit of a bracket here. So DFM will drop down and wait the loser of that team, whereas PSG will be waiting for the winner of that series. If you're able to win 2 of your series, you move on. And then there's, through the losers bracket, a last chance qualifier match, which we'll see both teams from different groups move into there. So it's a very different setup than most people are used to with MSI, but I'm very excited for it. I've been having a very good time, and knowing that these teams will have multiple series to play through.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the fact that we get series. I think that's the biggest thing for me that makes this MSI incredible, is that we got to see 2 different versions of PSG here. We got to see 2 different versions of DFM. We got to see adaptation between, so it's not just that best of one. You don't just get knocked out off of like a bad level 1. You get opportunity to reinvent yourself. So feels good to see what PSG were bringing. And you can see very happy with their win here today, and rightly so.
Yeah, I think in terms of a first series, you got to be pretty happy with that one. Sure, you don't want to fall behind massively in game 2, but I think you showed your resilience and your ability to find ways into games, being able to kind of absorb those kinds of engages and stuff. Also didn't have to show a ton in terms of draft. I think they are a team that we talked about playing very standard. It's not like they're going to have too many tricks up their sleeve. I mean, maybe the Blitzcrank was a tell, but I think at this point everyone is understanding that Blitzcrank's going to be pretty meta over the course of this tournament.
Which is kind of crazy to say, isn't it? Like, Blitzcrank is kind of meta for this tournament. I hope that continues to be the case, because it feels like a long time since that was a statement you could confidently say. But, I mean, Woody as well had kind of a tough early game on the Blitzcrank. Didn't really perform earlier on finding those hooks, but when it mattered the most in those team fights, I mean, the final pick onto Steel gets the invisible version of Wukong with the hook. Like, that clutch moment, that's everything that you need.
Yeah, I think it's probably his intentional thing, too. You know that the Wukong's always going to clone, so rather than shoot it right where he is, shoot it roughly where you think he's going to try and escape to. So very heads-up stuff there, and that's why everyone loves Blitzcrank, because you're never out of the game. You have a terrible game, you're 0-10, you land that critical hook. In the post-game lobby, everyone's talking about how great you are. They totally forgot about the fact you inted the game earlier. That's why Blitzcrank's a fan favorite.
It's all about that one win moment.
Yeah, you land that one hook, you hang your whole hat on that one.
I feel like that was Woody's hero moment. I feel like Wako had that hero moment in the base as well, right? Where he's literally just firing off at all cylinders with the Calibrum. Like, everyone that comes anywhere near him, he is going to take down. And every single time there was a pick taken, he'd immediately answer it. That was magnificent.
I feel like he's had a couple moments, to be fair. The one in the base was nice, but
the flash,
yeah, the Baron one as well, when he flash ulted and then Gale Force 4. Like, he's absolutely a stellar player to watch. I'm excited to see him keep getting funneled resources, find ways in the game, win those kinds of things for his team. And the team plays well around him. I think they understand that, like, this guy is really good. We're going to funnel him as much gold as possible, because remember, they snuck that Rift Herald in this game, the first one, and were able to use it in the bot side to kind of try and keep pace with DetonatioN, who was, at that point, starting to accrue quite a gold lead. So I think PSG is a really smart team. They understand what makes them a good team, and they're very good about consistently getting those avenues going and getting ahead where it matters most for them.
Yeah, finding themselves those advantages through the bottom lane. And like you say, we're falling behind in the early stages of that bottom lane, but managing to find a creative way to get themselves back in. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think isn't talked about enough in League of Legends is creativity in the moment, like being able to find a different way to approach something. And I feel like that's something we saw a lot in Game 2 from PSG is like problem solving, figuring out, okay, this isn't working. How are we going to change things up? And that's the beauty of a best of 3 as well. We're going to head over to Yinsu, though, as we're on stage with Wako in the Verizon post-game interview.
Thank you very much. I am joined now by Wako, and Wendy's going to come and translate as well. First of all, hi, welcome to London. 你好，欢迎来到伦敦. That was a very, very exciting comeback there in Game 2. I want to ask you and get your thoughts on how you feel like you were able to make that comeback, because it was very back and forth towards the end.
那首先恭喜你们获得了首胜，而且是欢迎来到伦敦。说到今天的比赛，就不得不提到第2场的对决是非常的焦灼，有来有回。所以说当时是在最后是怎么样找到很漂亮的机会，完成今天翻盘，有什么感受？
因为虽然我们阵容前期是有点小劣势嘛，但是我们就是中后期其实发育起来之后，就是基本上都是只要赢一波团战就可以翻盘了。所以我们后来有抓到机会的话，就是觉得我们 只要赢一波团就翻回来了。
So based on our comp, definitely we are the one that put ourselves in a disadvantage in the early game. But we feels like if we can scale up so well, if we can just seek one opportunity to win one single team fight, we still got the chance to make the comeback. And luckily we were able to do so. We were able to find a very good opportunity to just punish the opponent to win the game.
Yeah, that was a really crazy team fight. Now, you guys usually play very slowly. You like to take your time. And DFM, they're the opposite. They love the early game aggression. Did you find any difficulties at all playing into that style? What was the game plan to adapt to a team that likes to play fast?
那其实说到你们的打法风格是比较不同的，你们很多时候可能会比较运营，然后打到中后期，但是你们的对手 DFM 他们是在前期就会进攻性十足的队伍，所以说可能面对到他们会有怎么样的一些难点呢？那么你们又是怎么样去很好的去应对、去变通，然后赢下比赛的？
他们喜欢选这种前期进攻的嘛，所以我们 就是他们的中后期就会比较疲弱一些，所以我们就是想办法前面防守起来，然后只要撑到中后期，我们队员的操作跟团战是绝对不会输他们的。
Yeah, DFM, they usually play the comp that can be super strong and super aggressive in the early game, but that also means they're not that strong in the late game. So if we were able to scale up so well, and also I trust our communication and also the team fight and also the mechanics from all my teammates. So if coming into the late game, that will be our battlefield.
Good game plan. Now, you've been to international tournaments before, but your teammates haven't. And when we were looking at you guys on the player cams, when you were getting really big kills, really crazy highlights, your reaction was very cool and calm, you know. We didn't really get any reaction from you, in fact. So talk me through the vibes of the team. What are you guys like? Are you all like that? Or are there other players that are more high energy?
那其实对于你来讲，你是有过一些大赛经验的，但也可能有一些队友也算是世界赛场的新人。但是呢，我们其实有看到你们的一些录像，每当你们有很漂亮的操作的时候，每个人好像都没有什么表情，看起来是比较冷酷的那一种。所以说，你可能怎么觉得你们队伍的一个氛围和状态呢？是可能说大家都是比较冷酷的类型，还是说其实也有一些选手他们是比较嗨的那种呢？
其实没有，就是我们队的话，就是其实都是比较就是有点傻逼的，然后就是虽然比赛中可能取得优势，但是就是我们就是马上想着怎么打下一波嘛，所以在比赛中的时候不会展现那么多情绪这样。
I must say, like all our teammates, we are not that smart guy, but inside the game, maybe we would like to focus on ourselves. After one single team fight, we will like to try to focus on the next fight. So we didn't think about other stuff, to be honest.
Oh, 很可爱, very cute. Thank you very much, Wendy, for translating. Thank you, Wako, 谢谢你, for joining me. We're going to be taking a quick break here, but when we come back, it is time for G2 versus Loud.
I'm not here to hurt you. I'm you. From the future. I'm here to investigate something in the past. So Zahn is in trouble right now? If you would just listen, we'll be keeping the city safe from a devastating future.
Well, if it isn't the boy who shattered time.
There is a war coming.
I don't know what happens in the future, but it's not up to you to fix the world all by yourself.
He's been coming back to the past over and over again, trying to fix something in our timeline.
We've all got him, Echo. The first fight you have to beat is with yourself. This isn't over. Not yet.
I'm trying to save both of our cities from a disastrous fate.
New and existing customers can choose the phone they want, like the incredible iPhone 14 on us.
Not to brag, but I'm on Verizon now. And I got to choose the phone I wanted for free.
Not that you're bragging.
Choose the phone you want on us. Verizon.